my life that are such wonderful support. There's such a wonderful support network that in moments where you feel like you're going to, where you just really want to give up, they actually will show up and help you and, get you through the rough patches. I think that's really critical as well.
Well, I think it's too easy to overlook the simple things to try to look at something more complex than it needs to be. And I am not nearly as disciplined in meditation as you are, but I have found, at least for me, the interesting thing is to often look at, when I'm trying to quiet my mind, what are the things that are jumping inside my head, to then be aware of why are they there, and to address them. And it's interesting, it's also helped me with sleep as well. And you mentioned earlier how important sleep is to you. And I too need pretty close to 8 hours consistently. And it's the simple things of eating well and going for walks every day, and all of those simple practices that I too find if I don't do them, things just get bollocksed up, body and mind. And yeah, so they are important. That's why I wanted to delve a little bit into that. Also, as part of that, I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about your why. Simon Sinek's book of Start With Why was a big influence on me, as well as others. But you talked a little about, both at the conference and in an earlier conversation, about the importance of your why and how that impacts everything that grows out of that in terms of your work. Do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the importance of your why, that a lot of people struggle with this one as well. And for me, it boils down to the fact that as soon as I realized that I actually had a mission in life, that only came to me, by the way, I would say 18 months ago. And it was in conjunction with reading that wonderful book that I referenced earlier, Artist Therapy by Alain de Botton. My why became evident, where I realized for the first time that I'm a painter, I'm an artist at heart, but the why for me is that I want to help. This sounds a little, maybe a little spiritual, but the reason it's so important for me to put my work out there is I use art to heal, and I use it as a way to awaken and help connect with others, and help not just connect them to me, but to help connect them to a part of themselves that they didn't have access to in the past, and to help awaken them to all the beauty in their lives, and to use art as a wellness tool to really help people get all the juicy goodness out of it, because it's helped and changed and transformed and uplifted my life so much. I want other people to be able to access that. And as soon as I realized, oh my goodness, this is so much more, this is so much bigger than I ever thought. This is not just about me. It means I actually now have a responsibility to show up. And so days when I want to just give up and say, oh, who cares? Who cares if I do another painting? Well, really, my why is so much bigger than just about being a painter. It's deeper than that. It's about connection and awakening and intuition and inspiration and uplift. Well, you know what? The world needs that. And, you can't, the world might not need another painting, but the world sure could use a little bit more inspiration and a little bit more connection, because what's happening these days, I find the busier life gets, we actually need art more now than ever. So when you know your why, I'm just giving you a personal example, but when you know your why, you realize it's so much bigger than you. It's so much, it takes a little bit of pressure off of you. It becomes about so much more. It helps you understand why you need to show up. It helps you understand why you need to be consistent, why you need to ship, why you need to contribute, because making a contribution really matters. Like, we want to leave a legacy in our lives, because we aren't going to be here forever. And, what do you want your life to be about? The why really connects all of that.
I remember reading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, several years ago, and it had an incredible impact on me to see how important it was in his work that when he helped people in the concentration camp and then in recovery after the war was over and they were released, when people found a why or a purpose for serving other people, something to a cause or people outside or bigger than them, it gave their lives such meaning and significance and just turned people around. Mm-hmm. And as you said, the world may not need another photograph or they don't need another photograph, they don't need another painting, they don't need another song, if you will. But that service to people in something bigger in the process of doing that work and making a connection, as you said, is inspiring, and the world definitely needs that.
Absolutely. I think you've said it beautifully. It helps you realize what contribution and how you can serve, and we all need that too. I mean, that's why I love your podcast so much, is because I think it helps people understand what truly is important and how you can actually serve with your creativity. And that also helps you show up every day.
Consistently. Absolutely. Well, speaking of struggles, what are some lessons that you've learned that have made you a better person for having gone through them?
Oh my goodness. Now that is a brilliant question. Avoiding struggles and wanting to kind of give up, I guess. Or I think for myself, whenever I've had a really disappointing result from something, there were art shows in the past where I showed up with all of this new work and I was really excited to put it out there and unveil it for the first time. And I had, a lot of supporters show up and say, wow, this is wonderful, this is great. And then you kind of put certain expectations on how much you want to sell at that show. And, you're grossly disappointed. Maybe you don't sell anything. And you have very disappointing results. It's very tempting to just say, well, I'm never doing that again. But if I hadn't had those struggles, I would never have started to become curious as to, well, is there anything I can actually do to change this? Because, I understood that people weren't really able to go, well, certain people were, and it was really interesting. Certain people really got it, but so many others didn't. And I started to question, well, why is that? Why is this happening over and over again, where there's only this small handful of people that really seem to understand modern art or any of my abstract stuff? And there's so many other people that just, it's almost like there was like this big barrier, almost like a big glass, a bulletproof glass, soundproof glass between me and them. And I couldn't reach them. And that's what led me, the curiosity is what led me to my mission in life, which is to actually help people have a much deeper, richer experience of art. It led me to that book. It led me to writing a course. It led me to reaching out and connecting in deeper, more effective ways. Every time I go out, I actually now have a better understanding of the fact that I'm actually creating an experience for people, and I want to have a cohesive through line in everything that I do so that they can actually get it and actually have a great experience and be moved and really receive what I'm trying to put out there. If I just went and gave up after my first show where I didn't sell much, none of that would have happened. So the struggle is what actually got me here. As much as I don't really want to repeat much of it, but that's how and why we learn if you get curious. The curiosity part, I think, is critical. If you just let it defeat you and let it kind of send you back into your cave and you don't want to emerge anymore, then there's no learning, there's no growth. So the struggle helps as long as you look at it with curiosity and self-compassion. That's why those things matter so much.
I think I read somewhere a while back that the opposite of depression was not happiness, but curiosity. Mm-hmm. That people who seem to stay curious and seeking stay motivated, and those that don't seem to just dwell in the negative places. So it was an inspiration to me to stay curious just out of that. and not avoid struggles just because they're going to be hard.
between depression and resiliency and staying motivated. um, none of us wants to struggle. Let's face it. I don't want them. I know probably my greatest work and my greatest growth is going to come at the end of them, but I don't want them. It's just part of, Elizabeth Gilbert in her wonderful book, Big Magic, talks about, how much, kind of like, I hope this isn't, pardon my French, but she talks about, the shit sandwich and how willing are you to eat and put up with this stuff that comes along with getting to be a creator. And, it's actually a privilege for us to be able to do this. We've been given certain gifts, and it's really great to be able to use them and give back by using them. So yeah, I mean, I don't know a single soul who says, yeah, bring on the struggle. Like, we don't like it. We want to avoid it. It's change. We're wired to, Rick Hansen, who's this great guy, he wrote Buddha's Brain, and he talks about our affinity for wanting to avoid change and pursue reward. Like, we're hardwired. Like, it does kind of keep you alive if you sort of know what you're dealing with, but it keeps you alive physically, but it kind of kills you spiritually. And so that's why this whole struggle thing and not wanting to avoid struggle is important, because as another wonderful statement by Liz Gilbert, we don't want to be meat puppets. We don't want to just be taking up space. We want to be making contribution. And in order to do that, you gotta go through the struggle.
Absolutely.
I think having a healthy sense of humor and being able to laugh at yourself once in a while, I think that keeps you sane too.
Yeah, I figure I might as well laugh at myself because I've got a whole lot of other people who are doing it. So I might as well just join in the chorus.
Yes, I can relate, Charles. I can relate.
And Liz Gilbert's book, Big Magic, has had an incredible, encouraging influence on my thinking since it came out. And her podcast is wonderful as well by, I think the same name, or Magic Lessons, I believe it is. So she's doing incredible work around creativity. Very inspiring book. Speaking of inspiring, is there someone you know who is outside the spotlight but doing something important that's having an impact that the world should know about?
Wow. You know what? That's great. I know several people who are doing wonderful work that I've come into contact with in the last little while. I have a wonderful writer friend named Lisa Cowan. She's a published author. She spends her time in between British Columbia, Canada, and Toronto, which is how I met her. Lisa teaches people how to become better writers and how to. She wrote this wonderful course called Writing the Body that actually helped me sort of tap into my own sort of hidden writer, because as artists, we often have to do a lot of writing, and because we don't necessarily identify as being writers, it can be quite intimidating, but we do often have a gift for being visual. And Lisa helped me tremendously in her course really get present and start to be able to write kind of as me and become very, very in the moment and to look at things with all five senses. And she does wonderful work in terms of teaching people how to connect with themselves and then how to write and express. She's a great teacher and a dear friend and a dear supporter at this point. She has a group, a Facebook group called Routinely Creative. So she also does wonderful work with helping people to show up and be consistent and express their creativity in whatever way that might express for you. I think you would love to speak to her at some point. I could even see a future podcast with Lisa.
Great.
She's just doing really great work, and I would love to shine a little bit more of spotlight on her efforts as well.
Well, is there one thought that you'd like to leave with our community that you believe could make a difference in their lives?
One thought that I'd like to leave with the community, I would say, don't die with your music still in you. I think we assume that we're going to be here forever, that we have all the time in the world, and we don't. That's the truth. And I want you to know that the world needs what you have to offer. I think, you don't realize the impact that you make when you do show up. And I would encourage everyone to please show up however